And you'll notice here where that geometry goes inward and it's receiving that highlight here. By its very nature being bright, whatever's next to it is naturally going to be dark. What I like to do is take that darkness over here and actually make it a little bit darker in my painting to really emphasize that highlight. So let's go over to our painting here. Like I said, this area is bright, and by that nature, this stuff is going to be dark, but I'm going to make it slightly darker than the actual reference to make that highlight pop. And this is on a new layer, so I'm actually just going to lay it in like this as a big area, and then erase out and fade into it so that it kind of has a nice gradation. Cool. Let's go ahead and paint in that stem. It's going to have a little bit of greenish hue in there. This is another method where, similar to what we did down here with that shadow, it's not merged down. It's merged down. The mistake here would be to make a smaller brush and try to paint within the lines, because you have a much more effective process by laying in a big stroke like this on a new layer and then using that eraser method to really control exactly where those shapes are going to go. Okay, now we have our French fry looking thing. All right, lock the transparency like that. And now if we go halfway to black and make it a little bit warmer, apparently, I guess because of that bounce light, and just paint a stroke, and paint a stroke like that to imply the cylindrical nature of that little stem. It's going to roll around the form like this, and it's darker at the top and it fades down. There's a bit of warmth there. Now we turn off the line work and zoom out. Looks pretty good. We can kind of finesse it a little bit as well. What I'm going to do is use that line work and hold Alt and then clipping mask it into our layer, and now merge it down. Now what I'm going to do is kind of have a little bit of fun with this. Earlier I mentioned the background being darker against that highlight to make it pop. We're going to make it a little bit more so. Make a new layer. It's going to paint like this. Clipping mask, and then erase out in a gradient towards the top left. Yeah, now it's got that painterly look. Now again, we're not trying to do anything photorealistic, although you can learn a lot from doing that. Personally, I just find it to be boring. So this is way more fun, and I learn way more by doing this for the things that I want to do, how I want to paint. So let's go ahead and not use a clipping mask there because it lost a bit of opacity. All right, let's do that and merge down. Now let's just talk about a little bit of lost edges and focal points. So if we were to ask ourselves, where is the focal point of this piece? Well, definitely things that are in the light. And this whole top area is the first read. It's our kind of star of the show. Everything else is sort of secondary, but we can make other areas act as focal points, like first read, second read, third read. For example, we could put another focal point there and then another one maybe over here, so that we have first read going down to this area, then up to this area, and loop right back. That kind of creates a nice cycle, as opposed to having only one area with high contrast. So how do we emphasize these areas then? Well, this part is already kind of grabbing our attention. But if we want to make this second read a little bit more contrasty, what we're going to do is grab this color, make it brighter, and paint in right there. And keep in mind, you can bring attention to something by increasing the values and the contrast, and sometimes saturation or texture or lack of texture. Really, it depends on the scenario. So I'm just going to paint in this whole spot like this on a new layer, and then erase out as a gradation towards that spot that we want it to be brightest. Okay. Now it's definitely calling attention to that spot. And we're going to do the same thing over here, but not as strong. Cool. Now we have a decent composition with 3 focal points. But I want to further emphasize that, because now when we're looking at the whole piece, there's sharp edges everywhere. And earlier I mentioned lost edges. So which edges do we want to lose? Well, we don't want to lose any focus in these specific areas, but everywhere else could just kind of be blurred out. Just to kind of practice this, I'm going to make a copy of this layer and say that in this spot, we're going to leave it sharp, but right next to it, kind of blend that in. A, because it's in shadow and it doesn't need to be sharp. And B, because when you have something sharp like this highlight and you have something blurred next to it, that sharpness is really going to stand out. So in this case, I'm going to grab the mixer brush and it's going to be the same, that same bristle brush. All this stuff over here, we're going to blend it in. It does not need to be sharp. And actually our eyes kind of naturally do this when we're looking at things in real life. Okay, now when you zoom out, you don't really notice it right away. Unless you're looking for it. But if we did that to our focal points, we'll definitely notice it because it's in light. The things in shadow do not need to be in focus. Let's actually bring this back up. Also, these areas that are kind of peripheral can also be blended in. Kind of like that. The more you do this, the more you'll develop your own personal taste of what you want to do with how much you're blurring things or blending things, how much you're leaving sharp. I'm actually going to blend this over here to emphasize the sharpness of the highlights over here. I'm also going to use one big brush stroke this way, just to blend in that core shadow and bring it back out a little bit. You can kind of do this on the whole thing, actually. And if you want to get something to look like it's got that painterly form thing, you can kind of treat it like it's a low polygon object with faces, and then you can use that mixer brush to really emphasize those faces. So just picking a direction like this along the form of it to kind of make it look like it has that nice effect. I'm just kind of leave it alone like that, right, in that spot. Okay, I'm actually going to make this shadow a little bit sharper. Go back to our regular brush, new layer, and just sharpen it a bit. Okay. I don't like that this is a horizontal, because whenever you have a composition and you have things that are perfectly vertical, perfectly horizontal, it tends to ruin the dynamics of the piece. So you want to kind of look for those verticals and horizontals and kind of slant them a little bit. I'm going to take this and angle it upward just a tad. I actually want this part to be sharp. And it starts to really pop out at us. And like I said, it's very much a build-up process. We started with that simple circle of red, the shadow, then the highlight. We pull those values, and then we kept doing that until it had that three-dimensional form. And here I'm just going to blend in some of these areas. Okay, so I want the highlights over here behind the stem to be brought out a little bit more. So this is where I actually will use the lasso tool, because it's a smaller detail and I'm not really interested in doing that other brush technique. So in this case, before I do that, I'm going to use the smudge tool, and it's in the presets. Basically what this smudge tool does, it'll take the pixels and kind of just move them around. Like whatever area you start off with, it's going to take that and move it around. So what I like to do is just sharpen those edges by bringing this down a little bit. Okay, I'm going to hit Control-Shift-I to get the reverse selection. And we're going to brighten this up with a new layer. Bring out our brush, not the mixer brush, and then grab this value and just paint right in. And from here, I'm actually going to unsharpen this a little bit. We can kind of introduce the use of a texture brush. So new layer, going to grab a speckle brush, and that's up here, I believe, splatter scatter. This might look a little different from the brushes you have, depending on when you got them, but it's all mostly the same. All the ones that I'm using in these demos are in all my brush packs. So, all right, I'm going to grab this splatter scatter. As I look at the reference, it seems like there's these yellow dots that they're just speckled everywhere. So we're going to allow the RNG randomness of that kind of happen. I'm going to select the highlight, but not the brightest part, just kind of like in between the midtone and the highlight. And on a new layer, I'm just going to press and then move the brush around everywhere. That's a little bit big. We're just going to make it smaller. Cool. And from here, what we can do is either erase out with an eraser or use a mask. So I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt. Then down here, right below on the layers, we're going to press that mask button. And anything we paint using white on this black part of the mask will reveal that splatter. Now, if you're selected on this part of the layer, it won't work. You want to do it on this part. This is the mask part. Remember that. I'm going to grab the airbrush, and again, anything I paint with white will be revealed. So I'm going to do that all in the highlight area. And maybe a little bit in the shadows, but not too much. All right, and some finishing touches. We're going to bring out a little bit of a brighter highlight there in the shadow, in the highlight. I'm going to use this brush, grab a kind of white color, and just one stroke, just like that. Now you zoom out. Yeah, it's starting to work. One thing I did forget is this reflection. It's kind of almost a Fresnel effect. Whenever you have a matte surface that isn't highly reflective, if you look at it from a very low angle, it's going to have a slight reflection. Even something as rough as a piece of wood, at a certain angle, it'll still have a reflection of whatever's above it. So we do have that reflection kind of right here on the edge of the apple. So what we can do is grab a color like this and just paint on the edge like that. And you guessed it, we're going to erase out in reverse like this. And lo and behold, we have that painterly effect. Now, obviously, I pushed it a lot here, and we can go in and do a bit of cleanup, but you look at that gradient, and it just has that nice just brushwork effect that we all really enjoy looking at.